All right, hello YouTube. We should be live right now. And all I'm going to say is we have got some stuff to discuss about this episode. Because we're going to be reviewing episode 6 of Rings of Power. Sorry for the notification that was sent out about episode 5. I was reusing the same stream settings, and I more or less forgot to change the title. Well, the number, anyway. So, yeah. Hopefully this is coming through for you guys. So as you're coming into the stream, let me know if everything sounds good and stuff. Hi Jesse, how are you? I will say for people watching this back later on, or people in the stream right now, what would you give episode 6 out of 10? Like what would you rank it on that spectrum? I will say I will talk about my overall grade and why I gave it this grade later on in the episode. But I was pretty negative. I gave it a 3 out of 10. I thought it was pretty bad. We're going to go through pretty much individually every single episode, or not episode, every scene within episode 6. And we're going to kind of go through it. What did I like? What did I dislike from each scene? And at the end, I'll kind of give you guys my wrapped up summary. I'm talking about the good points, the bad points, and all of it. There's not going to be a lot of good points in this. As you guys can tell, I gave it a 3 out of 10. So it's going to be a lot of negative in this stream. I also want to say before I start getting into it that if you like this show, I'm happy that you're enjoying it and all that. I am not in that boat. I very much dislike this show from a point of view of the lore is just completely inaccurate to Tolkien's writing. And this kind of just seems like a cash grab and or really bad fan fiction when you look at Tolkien's actual writing. And they've changed a lot of things that really don't make any sense, especially when there's already lore they already have that they've completely kind of just tossed away. So there, from that aspect, I hate the show. And the second aspect from the show that I hate is just narratively and from a logical storytelling point of view, this show fails in nearly every single part of it. But hi, Matthew. How are you? The episode was better than others, but still really stupid. I can understand that, Jesse. I've seen a lot of people have said this episode is better than the others. I personally actually think it was my least favorite episode. I'll talk about it as we go through, but I will say this is actually my lowest ranking on any episode I've ever had in Rings of Power, so I'm not very high on this episode. But yeah. But I think it's because of the other episodes, not so much this episode. It's because there was so much, not even build up. There was so much like just filler, nothing going on really, getting to this episode where we're supposed to actually pick up the story. And it was just kind of a flop and a disappointment. So I think it makes it even worse. So it's that bad? I think so, yes, Purple Haze. All right, so let's get into the opening scene of episode 6. So the opening scene is Adar talking with the orcs, kind of talking about how they've been enslaved by, I'm assuming Sauron is kind of where he was going with that, and how this is, you know, finally their time to take over the land and all of that. My only real note here is the speech is fine. It's not great. It's just kind of whatever, right? Nothing crazy. Like, we don't get a big Aragorn speech right at the Black Gate. The speech is fine. It's serviceable. It does what it's supposed to do. Nothing crazy. And all that. That sounds like Cope, whoever said that. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Purple Haze, but sure. I'm watching it now, and the beginning was confusing. Yes. I'm going to talk about scene 2, which I think was the most confusing part to set up this episode, because it felt like a really big misdirect. Galadriel was okay in her first scene, but then in the end, she's revealed as being evil, threatening to torture Orc and talking about enjoying committing genocide without. So yeah, Jesse, this is something I'm going to talk about when we get later on in the scenes and towards the end, is that Galadriel's character does a complete, like, she just has moments in this that are just completely out of character to me. There's only one ring made of mithril. That is Nynya. All the others are made out of gold. That is correct. So, let's get into scene 2. So, scene 2 is really like, it's very reminiscent of the orcs. Either, there's 2 scenes you can really look at. Where in the Return of the King, about got it mixed up with Revenge of the Sith there for a second. But there is 2 orc marching scenes, like there's the one out of Minas Morgul, or the one where they're like moving towards the Black Gate. That one, I think that one's only in the extended cut, but it's very reminiscent of those. It's like at night, you have all the kind of torch fires or whatever for the orcs. It kind of reminds me of that. We see all these orcs kind of stretching along the bridge, leading up to the tower, all the way down the hill. There's a lot of orcs here, okay? This is something I want to make very plain to you guys. There is a lot of orcs, okay? And what we see following this is absolutely some of the worst stupid writing I've ever seen in a big budget TV show. So Adar leads these orcs into the tower, right? There's basically no one here. It's just Arendir, right? And this contradicts literally the entire last episode. The last entire episode, we get no idea of what their plan is. That they're probably just going to hold out. It's going to be some last-ditch effort by Numenor is going to save them or something like that. But no, they apparently abandoned the watchtower, or the tower. And this makes no sense from any logical point of view. So let's think about what they end up doing. Let's talk about what they end up doing first, and then I'll talk about why this is stupid. So the orcs kind of walk in, and this is another problem I have with this show as a whole and the episodes as well, is that the orcs in this show have no continuity. Their mood changes so much. They're either really horror element orcs, or they're either the complete opposite, and they're very comedic, comical orcs, how stupid they are and bad. Kind of like The Hobbit, where it's like the Hobbit version of the orcs versus like the Lord of the Rings version of it doesn't make any sense, because then they're like, they've just walked into this watchtower, and they're instantly like, oh, guess what? There's nobody here. And then Adar is like, I can smell the elf. What does it even mean? So, whatever. But, yeah, so then we see Arendir, he's just sitting up there. He's not even really hiding. Like, how does nobody find him searching this tower? Oh, they took 2 seconds and said, oh, let's just, say he's gone. It's so stupid. And then what follows is Arendir breaks, I guess, one rope that was holding up the entire tower. The entire tower. And then the tower falls into, like, the courtyard, I guess, basically. And then Arendir blocks the gate. So let's revert to what I just told you guys at the beginning of this scene. Right. I'll answer comments after I get done with this scene. But I just got done telling you there was a bunch of orcs. They're still coming over the hill. Like, they're not even, all of them are not even at the bridge yet. Right? How the I can't even speak. Like, it's just so stupid. How the flying fuck did Arendir, without being seen, go to this bridge? There's not a single orc in sight. There's not a single orc in sight. There's nobody guarding the bridge, because why would they do that? The orcs are stupid now. What? Way to start the episode with such a stupid way. You've taken literally all the suspense out of the battle. You've taken all the tension away, because we know that this is just the type of writing we're going to get the rest of the episode, where nothing's set up. We got no indication of this is what their plan was. The last episode, Bronwyn was so desperate, they were willing to use the little sword thing at the end. This was not set up at all. They did not earn anything that happened in this episode, whether that be good or bad. Most of it's bad. But they didn't earn getting a battle here. And then they fucked it up themselves. And they were like, hey, we could have had this really awesome scene. Could have been like kind of reminiscent to Helm's Deep, where you have the Rohirrim, like peasants that, aren't the best fighters. They haven't really fought much. against this army of orcs, and we have, one little gate that we have to hold more or less. And you just have them holding out, and they're slowly losing the battle, and Numenor, because they can teleport, show up at the end of the episode and beat them down or something. Like, you could even have it to where Adar basically wins, he puts the sword in, and as that's happening, we see a bunch of things culminate here. The volcano explodes, and also Numenor arrives just at the same time. You have the same effect, and the episode's better. That's simple writing. Like that could have been fixed there. So, yeah. So that's kind of how scene 2 ends, and we kind of see that they're all over somewhere else, and it just didn't make any sense. All right, let me read some comments, because I don't know. The opening of this really set me up for hating this episode. Galadriel being sadistic and killing, or talking about killing all of Adar's children before killing him too is just not only not Galadriel, it's not something any elf would do or say, not even Feanor. Agreed, Hugo. I agree. It's something that is like, it's just not Tolkienian, Hugo. Tolkien, it's very cliche nowadays of just having good versus evil. But that is where it kind of started. Like, that's kind of where that became popular. And Tolkien wasn't someone that made a lot of his characters morally gray. Like, yes, there are morally gray characters, and there are things that make characters become not purely good or evil. But making Galadriel with almost no reason to basically be, like, cruel, evil, sadistic is not Tolkien writing, right? So, yeah, again, there's things like that that also drove me nuts. How did the elves not know that the shrine to Sauron was built at their watchtower when they built it however many decades or centuries ago, and they've been manning this tower for a good amount of time? I have no idea. Jesse. I have no idea. There's so many plot conveniences and just stupid things going on that I have no idea. Here's another one. You're really going to sit here and tell me that Adar and these orcs did not have a single person. They even had humans, right? They could have had humans scouting the tower. The entire humans migrate out of the tower and then move like half a mile down. Nobody sees them. No orcs see them on their march there. You cannot expect me to believe how stupid your writing is. I am willing to overlook things, like, for instance, in House of the Dragon, because it's earned, right? Like, they've done things to earn what they're setting up or doing. This show has done nothing to deserve that. So I am not going to... In episode 1 and 2, I defended this show a little bit. Like, I would, I was trying to go in with an open mind and give them the benefit of the doubt. But I'm not doing that anymore, because this show's dog shit. Like, it's bad. How you soak the amount of money Amazon did into this show, and the writing is like a high schooler, maybe even a entry-level college, like, drama or writing kid wrote this story. It's just mind-boggling to me. How did they escape the tower, and how the hell did 3/4 of the army fit in the fort? Matthew, this is what I don't understand, because you can clearly see the army is way, way out. And this is the other thing. When they pan out of the tower falling, basically, we see there are orcs still on the hill. On these hills around the tower, like fleeing the wreckage or whatever. But they're not there when Arondir leaves. No, like, it's just so many plot conveniences. Why did they flee from the indefensible village to the tower and then back to the village? How do they rig the tower to collapse? Agreed, Jesse. This is my problem, right? It's something that Star Wars and Marvel does too, where it's like, let's just do things because it'll be a surprise. Like, what was the point of Arondir's story? Like genuinely, what was the point of the village story? Why didn't they just have it where episode 1, some orcs are attempting to, like, raid the village or something, and then episode 2, they have to defend against the village or something? Like, they had to come up with some contrived and terrible story to just make it to where they get to episode 6 and Numenor can come over. That is literally it. It's so mind-boggling to me how terrible it is. Another thing, the tower. Let's talk about this again. Instead of having to have this peasant army who, again, has never fought really before, instead of putting them in high-stress situations and in close hand-to-hand combat with orcs, why wouldn't you just stay in the tower, get bows, and then just try to shoot them off? They're going to be going over kind of like a bridge moat, like natural kind of moat thing, where you stand the best chance. How is you, like, 4 guys going on rooftops and then you attacking in a village going to... It's... Okay. We got to get off this point because it's just... I could sit here all day and talk about how stupid it is. I'm disappointed that Halbrand is not Sauron. If the show can't be epic, at least I wanted it to make me laugh. Agreed. You know, he still could be Sauron, but it's kind of stupid now at this point. He's kind of trying to go for, like, Aragorn or something. Agreed, Matthew. That would have made sense if they were trying to, like, flee. But they literally walked half a mile away from the tower and said, okay, this is where we're going to set up camp now. Agreed, Hugo. Agreed on the Galadriel stuff. Yeah, that's the thing, Matthew, is that, like, I think at the very least I could have seen Thranduil doing it, but I don't think so. This just is not something an elf would say. Like, it's just not. It just doesn't fit. Especially the elves. Agreed, Jesse. Agreed on that idea. All right, so hold on. They should show Harad and Ruin inspired, as Tolkien said, in Asia and Africa, a way to show regions inspired by... Yeah, so this is another thing that I think I let it pass the beginning, but I'm just kind of over it now, is that if you look at Middle-earth, right, Middle-earth is really the ideas of you have Western Europe and how it's kind of brought about by the mythology of, like, Nordic mythologies, Celtic mythologies, and then you kind of have the East, which is more of, like, your Asia and your Africa type mythologies or people. So when you start mixing all these things, it destroys Tolkien's, again, writing, and not destroys, because you can't destroy Tolkien's writing, but it goes against really everything you're trying to say you are, right? So, I don't know. Yep, we get Make Numenor Great Again. It just didn't. Agreed, Raphael. And this is the problem. This is the problem. They kept setting it up like the orcs had this massive force, but then they show us 30 orcs. It's like if Helm's Deep, right? So Helm's Deep, let's say we see this army of Uruk-hai, right? They show the Aragorn scene where he sees the army of the Uruk-hai and then he goes back to Theoden in the movies, right? It's like if they showed that and then at Helm's Deep, like 50 Uruk-hai showed up, like there was like maybe a couple dudes sieging the wall and there's like maybe one battering ram. Like that is what this felt like. So, all right, we go back to Numenor and they're on the boats and we're looking at kind of Isildur with the horses. He's kind of feeding his horse. He fed his horse and then also took a bite out of it, which I thought was kind of weird. It was kind of, it made my, like, ew, that's kind of a nasty thing came off. And then he didn't even eat the whole apple and then threw it into the ocean. And I was like, wow, great way of wasting an apple, but okay. We get another scene where Galadriel is basically just being snarky to Isildur. Like, she's basically telling Isildur, oh, you need to... This is her thing, I feel like, in the entire episode. Is she's always, like, telling these characters like Isildur and Halbrand, you know, they need to have some humility and all these things. And I'm like, Galadriel, you are literally the most entitled character in this entire show. Like, you literally are just so entitled. It is mind-boggling to me that you are giving anyone else advice here. Like, it makes sense in the context of who Galadriel is, but that's not the Galadriel they went with. So I'm not going to give him a pass. I don't know. But yeah, so we have this scene, and it's like, whatever. And then I do think the one thing I got out of this scene that I liked is that Isildur says he's kind of trying to escape Numenor. It's not because he's just trying to sail away from Numenor. It's because Numenor's kind of lost its way on the idea how they've turned against the Valar and the Elves. It's not really Numenor anymore, right? It's something else. And I did like that motivation because it actually does kind of go a little bit more into the idea that Numenor is not, it's kind of split. I liked that idea, but again, it kind of falls flat because they just haven't developed that in any of the past episodes. They haven't really developed Numenor on what its actual themes are, like the idea of life and death and immortality and why these two sides are the way they are, or even developing the two sides. They haven't even done that. So this kind of falls flat to me, but I like what they were trying to do. It's just coming from Galadriel, or he's talking to Galadriel, and then also the way Isildur has been set up, it's too late, I feel like. Right? So, and then they have this idea where Galadriel asks who Elendil's wife was. And Elendil kind of has this little speech or whatever, and I'm just like, I just don't care. Like, yes, there's going to be shadow in Middle-earth. We've been getting told this for like 5 episodes now. And then he basically just goes, yeah, she drowned, and then walks away. Like, there was such a missed opportunity here, because Elendil's wife within the actual story and lore, we actually don't know who she was. We don't know who Isildur's mother was. This would have been a great opportunity to add something into the story that would have been their own. And this is what I'm talking about, is they could never have done this story without changing the lore to some degree. And this is one of those things that made sense to change in the lore, is having Elendil's wife, have her be some sort of motivator for Elendil and Isildur to maybe continue being faithful or something like that. But no, we just don't get any of that, really. So yeah, just wasted time again introducing that his wife drowned, but for what? Also they instantly are going to this watchtower. Why? Like, Muriel's like, we're gonna go here. Like, why that spot? Is there any reasoning given to us of why they need to, A, get to this spot quickly, and 2, why they're even going to the spot? Did I miss something? I know Halbrand's like, this side of the area is good to land on or something. But why are they basically riding through the night like it's Rohan and Gondor and Return of the King? Rohan is basically like, we are riding, we cannot get much rest because Gondor is going to fall. Like, Minas Tirith is going to fall. We have to haul ass. Galadriel gets them to go there because Sauron is kind of taking over, quote unquote, but they don't know where, and they don't know, like, how this is happening, right? So it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Okay, let me look at chat a little bit. Also, Raphael, I'm guaranteeing the only thing the $1 billion went into was the landscape shots. I just genuinely cannot see where somebody literally showed me. It was, I don't know if it was somebody DM'd me on Instagram or if it was something I saw in a video. There's literally a shot in, I think it's episode 5 or 4, where they copied the people in the audience while someone was talking. I don't remember who was talking. It might have been Farazan. And you can literally see doubles of people within this crowd. $1 billion, guys. $1 billion. Elves became so wise and peaceful because they live and accumulate experiences forever. Back in the first stage when all elves were young, they were more morally gray than later on. Yeah, agreed. LOL, Galadriel gives Isildur a lesson on humility, telling him that he is wrong to feel superior, but at the same time, she is the most arrogant character. Agreed. I literally just, like, that like, conversation started, and I was like, all right, this is so stupid. No, they don't, Raphael. I mean, they just don't do many things in this show. I almost forgot, saw an article about how Peter Jackson might do a redemption project in Middle Earth after his Hobbit films, since she got rejected by Ring of Power. Hasn't said the story setting yet. That would be interesting. I would be really cool. It would be. I am still a big proponent on. They should do anything with the Witch King. Like, he is one of the coolest villains from the original like series, and we just don't have a lot of him. That's who it was. It was Red Team Review, Jesse. That's who it was. Thank you. Where you could do the Fall of Arnor, and I know like it is something that again takes over like hundreds of years and stuff like that, but that is such an interesting event, and it shapes the entire Third Age and how Sauron like takes more power. That I think that would be something you could do a really good show on. But I am biased because the Witch King is like my favorite Lord of the Ring villain. So, I wanted them to get to the Watchtower and find everyone dead. Jesse, they don't kill people in this show. Like, as much as they're willing to kill background characters we don't care about, our characters could get run over by a semi and they'd be fine. They'd have a little boo-boo. We'll talk about that later. I have a big problem about that. Red Team Review had a video about it. It might have just been because they shot the scene during the pandemic. Yes, but you could always just go back and have extra, like, I don't know. I don't think The Hobbit was the best, but I don't think it was bad, Hugo. I'm pretty okay on The Hobbit. Like, you know, I don't think it shouldn't have been 3 movies. It could have easily have just been 1 movie, but I'm okay with it. Like, I don't hate The Hobbit. I think it's okay. Also, the stream is sponsored by Aquafina. It's not actually sponsored, but this is just some really good water, and I think you guys should have it. Okay, so let's move on. We're back. So we go back to Arondir, and apparently, right, they can't attack during the sunlight hours again. So we're back to this whole idea here again, because they're gonna it's gonna get the continuity with the sun and the orc relationship. Again, very loose, but they can't attack till nightfall again. Sure, why not? Right? At this point, why not? And Arondir's trying to destroy the blade thing. Whatever. We know it's not going to work. Okay, whatever. And then Arondir might have uttered quite literally the dumbest line in this entire episode. He's not joking. He's not being sarcastic. He literally, I think, looks at Bronwyn, it was, and goes, "Our position gives us an advantage." Are you outside of your mind, Arondir? You left a fortified position that had 1 gate, was stone, to go to a village that's all wood that they can literally just burn the entire town, and bam, there you go. You're all dead. I can't, like, they went from, okay, we could have guys up on the walls above the gate to shoot arrows down at the orcs, to let's sit on the top of houses and then we're going to roast some, like, fire and try to block off the street, but yet they only do 1 of them, so then it's not going to block the street and then it's pointless. Almost like we're bad at writing. Sorry, we're not going to get into that yet. We're not there yet. We got to have more stuff. And then there's literally, okay, so there's this like battle speech or whatever, and there's just no tension here. Like, there was just nothing. Like, let's think back to, for example, Helm's Deep, right? The tension that movie goes into building into the climax, where Aragorn and Legolas are literally telling each other, they're like, we are going to die here, right? Like, we are going to die. Theoden gives us a really depressing, like, dark, like, speech. The music is eerie. The color palette, it gets more eerie as we get closer to the battle. It's raining. The mood is set perfectly. There's none of that in this episode, the episodes before. nothing is built up to let them have these moments where they're like, oh, we're going to have this speech and we're going to beat the orcs and all this stuff. It's like, I just don't care. I just don't care. So this leads to Bronwyn and Theo having a scene. And this is the one I really had an issue with. So Theo's like, let's say he's like 16. He's talking about like when he used to have nightmares, Bronwyn would tell him this elaborate line thing or whatever. Like, it's basically a poem. There is no way in hell the poem she's reciting, it's about like light and darkness, like everything is in this show. And it's like a long tale. It's just so stupid. You would not tell your kid after he has a nightmare all these things like, oh, eventually the light will like come back or whatever, or something stupid. It's like, I just can't. Like, I just can't. The race of men in this show are so stupid. Like, it's just, I don't even, let's continue. I will say, though, one thing I will talk about is in this episode, I do think the music was pretty good. I noticed the music as it starts to pick up and we start to, it's trying to build the emotion. The music is single-handedly trying to grab and pull the rest of the plot and characters into this tone and, like, trying to get us to feel for it. And I feel really bad because I can tell the people that did the music, they did a really good job. In this episode, at least, right? But it's just not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. So, yeah, I wrote down really tries to put emotion into emotionless characters, especially Arendir. And then I wrote down, this is my exact thing that I wrote down for this scene. Everything is about fucking trees. More filler and garbage dialogue from Arendir and Bronwyn. Like, he gives her these seeds, and he's just like, we gotta plant a tree, and let's hold hands on this like wood thing. Or I'm just like, I don't care. I just don't care. You've not given me a reason to care about these characters. There is no suspense here. There's no tension. You showed me that, and I think it's the last episode where they do this stupid scene where it's like Bronwyn, Theo, and Arendir, and they're like walking back, or they're running away from the orcs. If that was Game of Thrones, like, let's use early seasons of Game of Thrones logic, they'd all be dead. Like, there's just nothing here. There's nothing here. Okay? Nothing here. So, yeah. I wrote down, there's literally big emotional scene that I feel nothing for. Both have plot armor and are characters that don't care about, haven't earned any tension or build up to battle. Yes, it was about trees, Nikki, because everything's got to be about trees in this show. Like, makes me want to beat my head against the wall. It's like, oh, after so much death, we must plant all the trees. It's like, okay, let me read some comments before we get into scene 5, because it's gonna be a long scene 5 we gotta talk about. All right, let me go back up. I gotta read some chat. Sorry, I'm not like reading your guys' chat as they come in. I'm trying to get through each scene, because we're gonna be here all day. We're gonna be here all day if I sit here and rant about this stuff. Hold on. Fall of Arnor show would still have to have elf main characters until the end if it told the entire story. Agreed. Ideally, if the series tried to be faithful to the swords, Galadriel and Isildur should be the main characters, have completely separate arcs geographically speaking. Yeah, so I've said this in a past stream. There's a YouTuber that has basically done how he would do all the seasons, and basically he did it this way, where you had the first 2 seasons being about the elves and kind of the creation of the rings, and then you would have season 3 and 4 focusing on the men. So it would make more sense, like time. You'd have like a time jump basically. And so the men wouldn't even appear really in the first 2 seasons, which makes way more sense. But yeah. The Hobbit is not an epic like Lord of the Rings. It takes too many creative liberties and contains too much cliches. I agree, Hugo. That's why I think it's just okay. Like I think it's watchable. I think there are good scenes here and there, but Legolas climbing falling rocks and defying gravity, for example, yeah, that's the bad one. Or creating a very forced love interest, like kind of plot, which I didn't think needed to be there. I don't get why the orcs march into the village on a single road after they were just ambushed at the tower. Is it the village? Is the village on an island? Yeah, agreed. So this is another thing I had a problem with. I didn't write it down at this point of my notes, but it's something I noted in later. So why they have apparently they're using all the humans to attack the other humans at the village. Why didn't they just send in the human village like to do an attack during the day so they couldn't prepare at all and have to fight them off? And then do the next wave at night with your orcs. It doesn't make any sense. It isn't even fun to talk trash about Rings of Power because it is an irrelevant series. It is not as pleasant as talking trash about Game of Thrones used to be back in the day. Yeah, and I wrote this down somewhere in these notes. I think this is a worse watching experience than Game of Thrones. Like, if you were gonna say like just do Game of Thrones season 8 versus Rings of Power, at least Game of Thrones season 8 had some suspense to it. Like, some of the tension felt earned. Like, nothing in this show matters. Like, I don't care about any of the characters. Like, I don't know. The cavalry charge scene did look cool, by the way. I will agree. I think I wrote that down later on when we get there. Agreed, Raphael, by the way, on your statement about I think season 1 is a prologue to starting in the main story. All right. Eric, you know what? I'm thinking now after watching episode 6, Adar is the hero of the series. He is an orcs rights activist and Galadriel is racist. I agree. Yeah, this is another thing I wrote down is that the orcs being sympathetic and like being almost morally gray at times it's not Tolkienian. Again, doesn't make any sense. Doesn't really belong in Rings of Power. So again, bad. I'll be honest, guys. The only thing I'm looking forward to in this show is I just want to see Sauron just completely killing these characters in this story. I want him to legitimately just kill it. You know what, Galadriel, how she's like, I want to kill all the orcs. I hope Sauron comes out and he just starts wiping villages. Like, I just want him to wipe everybody out of this series. Like, we know he can't kill Galadriel, but like, I want him to just all these new characters they made up, the Harfoots. I hope he slaps them into the next realm. Like, you know, yeah. Why does this show humanize orcs and then have Guy Ladbro talk about wanting to Hitler them? She's supposed to be the protagonist. They have made quite literally the most hated protagonist in a major show I've ever seen. I don't know if they were like trying to be like Game of Thrones, like, oh, Galadriel's kind of our good character, but she's kind of a little dark too. Like, oh, we're so cool. Like, she's just, God, it's just. I asked myself, why can't the villagers of the Southlands simply flee from their place instead of awaiting their deaths? They could have gone for the. They could have gone and done anything, Hugo. They could have tried to get more of the people in the Southlands together and then try to retake it. They could have gone to the elves. They could have done quite literally anything besides what they did. That is actually a good point, Ashley. That's a good point. That would be a really good casting if they ever did like Duncan, like the Duncan egg stuff. If they ever did something like that. It's okay motivation for Adar, I guess, but orcs and Tolkien are irredeemable. This isn't agreed. Like, I get what they're trying to do with Adar's character, but you're completely going against the rest of the lore and just not even lore, just Tolkien's philosophy on his world, right? Dude, I do you think we should see Sauron by the end? Matthew, if you want this show to continue on and how they've been doing the show up to this point, I would say no. Don't show Sauron. Don't show him. That's the only thing this show has going for it. The only thing it has going for it is it's like, who is this meteor man? Is it Gandalf? Who's Sauron? Who are the Nazgul going to be? Is Halbrand going to be a Nazgul? Like, that's all the show has going for it. Think about it. What else intrigues you to watch this show? You don't care about the characters. I mean, maybe we care for like Durin and Elrond at times. What else keeps you like? Why reveal Sauron? Why even reveal Sauron? I don't know why Muriel sent Isildur into the battle. She should have just sent in her reserves and have Isildur. Agree, Jesse. It makes no sense why she sends one individual dude. Yeah. Okay. Let's get into scene 5. I'm going to take a little drink of water. So I'm going to need it. Because we're going to start kind of the battle stuff. And thank God House of the Dragons on Sundays. That's all I'm going to say. So we go to the nighttime in the village. And we go back. Again, we flip-flop. We went from the orcs being comically stupid and trying to humanize them back to horror element there. Yeah. And the mood is just, I wrote down that the mood was so off in this, where it was trying to be horror, but at the same time, the orcs that we just saw in the scene before being stupid. Like, so it just didn't feel right. And again, another thing that I talked about here is there's really no explanation as to how they got out of the tower or what even really happened. Like, where did this plan come from? Who decided to do this? I don't know. But yeah. By the way, this is the point of when I was writing down my notes. I started like not writing like as much notes down because I literally just got tired of writing down every stupid inconsistency. But yeah. Yeah. So moving on. The whole idea here. Also, I wrote down the orcs' costume design was good. Apparently, they weren't orcs, which makes no sense because we saw multiple characters or orcs when they were coming through the like little pass or whatever that didn't have like masks on it. They were just straight up orcs. And then they, at the very end, they try to say that all of them are orcs, which are humans. Sorry, none of them are orcs, which again doesn't make any sense. But we'll get there. So the plan is to set 2 wagons on fire and encase them in this little part of the road while Arendir and these dudes are sitting there with bows above the buildings. And then you would have the peasants with like spears rush at them from another way. And the problem with the plan, as you guys can all see, one wagon doesn't block the entire road. Like, this is literally what happened. Okay, so say like, right? Let's use my room for example. My wall right there, right? This wagon doesn't even cover up the amount of space to that wall to my desk. So yeah, that's that problem. The second problem is instead of like everybody being up on these roofs having bows, it's like 4 guys. It's like Arendir and like 3 other people. I'm just sitting here like, okay. So yeah, they entrapped 40 orcs or whatever. Where's the like other 200 that we just saw in the background that was marching down the hill? Where are they? What like, are they just standing at the bridge just like, well, shit. There's a little bit of fire. I guess we can't make it. Brother, this village isn't a field. Matthew. This show genuinely, like this episode, it didn't break me because I think episode 4 broke me. But this episode, the fact that I've been spending time out of my life to get to this penultimate episode, for them to like have like a 6-year-old do their game plan of how they're gonna beat this army of orcs. I don't know what happened. I don't know who was high in the writer's room for this, but people need to start getting fired. Like, I don't like to call people's jobs or whatever, but like the writers and or whoever like pushed this forward as a story should be fired. Like, I thought D&D in Game of Thrones Season 8 was bad. At least it wasn't this level of bad. Okay, so let's continue on. Let's continue on, guys. I'll get to chat after I get done with this part of the scene, okay? And so we see maybe 40 orcs get trapped. These orcs end up, I guess, dying or something. And then, so Arondir, he basically kind of gets pushed off of this roof, whatever. And he's fighting an orc, and he kills this orc. And I can't believe they had the audacity to then show Arondir get up from killing this orc and basically like stumble into a bigger orc. And now let's point to the idea this big orc doesn't have a weapon. He's going in like he's the Hulk. So instead of just, killing Arondir and just getting it over with, we have to endure this terrible fight, terrible fight scene between Arondir and this big hulking orc who at any point could have killed Arondir if he had a, sword or something. I don't know, give him something. Did they run out of weapons? What happened? Okay. So, as predicted, this ends by, Arondir's about to die. Bronwyn stabs the dude in the back. Okay, who cares? I saw this coming from a mile away. Arondir's never going to die. It's fine. And then, let's see. I specifically wrote down that I felt like I was watching Karate Kid with the orcs and the, Arondir. I felt like I was watching like some kung fu stuff. Like, what is going on? What is going on? Okay, so now let's get a flashback to introduce the next scene. We gotta have a flashback. So you guys remember in Return of the, we're gonna do a lot of, or no, wait, hold on. Yeah, Return of the King. When Faramir is kind of holding Osgiliath, and they're trying to kind of ambush or sitting behind the pillars. And you guys remember how the Gondorians kind of get their asses kicked? Like the orcs are kind of beating them up. Like, like it's kind of the trading. It's like maybe 50-50 to start, and then it's like the orcs just overwhelm them. These are Gondor Knights, by the way, trained. They are also rangers, right? There's some rangers here at Osgiliath. Now, I want you to keep that in the back of your mind when we fast forward to Rings of Power, and these dudes that have never held a weapon, and probably in their lives, these peasant folk, are beating the crap out of the orcs. Now, the excuse is here, they're it's human versus human. No, it's not. I just watched in the scene. Play the scene back, and you cannot tell me those are all humans. I don't think I saw a single peasant die in this little fight. So what does this do? It completely takes away any tension. And we already had this feeling, right? But the orcs have lost any horror element they ever possessed. Yeah, so. Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. What else do I have in here? Before I read chat, and we move on to the next scene. Also, I made a note here. So the other humans, right? They end up attacking or whatever. Arendir's side knew that these humans went to Sauron's side, or Adar's side, whatever. And they're surprised that they're killing some of their own. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think they were just gonna live peace? They just went to the side that said they were gonna massacre you guys. Like, and then they're all trying to build up sympathy. Like, I have no sympathy for any of the people. They all chose. The old dude literally killed a kid the last episode. They all chose to be on this side. They had a choice. They made it. They chose the evil side. Well, if you go off of the comments in this stream, I would say they chose the good side. And they had a honorable death. But we can argue. But, yeah. So, yeah, terrible attack, apparently. And then they do the twist where, like I was saying, where they're humans, which was just whatever. And then, so we see Adar's main attack start now, with the actual orcs, apparently, which I have no idea why they waited. It didn't make a difference if they waited or not. There's literally like 30 peasants. But apparently, they wait till now, and then people start dying. There's some arrows that are flung or whatever. And Bronwyn takes an arrow through the shoulder. I'm not talking like Boromir levels of arrow where like Boromir had like chainmail on and stuff and it just kind of like goes into him. It goes like there is a side on it's poking out on both sides of her fucking shoulder. Okay? And I'm sitting here like I really don't think she's going to die, but I'll give him props if Bronwyn dies here. And I want you to notice something else, by the way. So we get into this tavern or whatever. They put her on the table, and she's like, help the other guy first. The other guy's already dead. He took one arrow. He's already dead. So Bronwyn, just remember that. She's now taken one arrow. She's kind of like, you know, you would think at this point she's in shock or, you know, is going to pass out, probably. No, she's fine. And she's just like, okay, you know, you're going to have to pull it out. You're going to have to cut the little things off and you're going to have to take it out. And then you're going to have to, you know, put pressure on it and stuff like that. And I'm just sitting here like, there is no way in hell you take an arrow completely out of her shoulder and she is conscious without any type of alcohol, no pain relievers, nothing to numb her, nothing. Like they have they have nothing. Right? She is dead. She is dead. There's no like, and then okay, this is the part that it really got me because they think we're stupid, right? They think this show thinks we're stupid. They pull it out, and Theo he's like this. It's like this. He's like he's not really putting pressure on it. He's just kind of putting his hand on it, and you see blood's just gushing out of her shoulder, both sides. And we have this whole thing where they're like, it's like Deadpool. It's like Deadpool 2. If any of you have seen that at the end, it's like Deadpool 2. It's like, oh, I'm gonna die. Oh, you guys gotta put heat on it and stuff. Okay, now let's talk about what's just happened here. Right? Let's talk about this. This woman has just experienced so much pain. Taking an arrow without any alcohol, nothing to dull her pain, nothing to dull the senses, nothing. Pulls it out. And then her blood, her wound has not been like, they've not put pressure on it, nothing. It's just gushing everywhere. She's losing blood she is probably going to die at any second. And then they decide, let's put extremely hot shit right on to seal it closed, apparently. How is she not passed out or, like, at the least passed out? How is she? And then she's like, oh, I'm dead. And then, like, literally, like, 2 seconds later, is like, yeah, I'm good now. It's like, what? What? At that point of this episode, I was so, like, checked out of the episode. I literally just kept checking when the episode was over. I just couldn't. I'm like, how is there any stakes now to anything? Like, they're going into a battle. I'm just like, well, I mean, Bronwyn took a fucking arrow entirely through her shoulder, and bleeding out. Nothing dulls her, and she's fine. She's walking around, like Nikki says in the chat. She's walking around 2 hours later. She's fine. I don't know. I don't know. So this is going to be the end of this little segment, and then I'll look at chat. But so then they're in a wooden building. They close the doors, they lock it all up, right? And instead of just burning them alive like I would have done at this point, maybe it's a little cruel, but at this point I just don't care. They could have just, good old Viking style, just, they've already locked themselves in. Just light it on fire, kill them all. I know he's trying to figure out where this sword is, or he's trying to figure out where the sword is, but, like, we know it's under this, like, flooring. He'll find it eventually. God. Oh, God. I'm gonna have a heart attack doing these. Okay, chat. Let me respond. Let me respond. Where did I stop responding at? Here we go. I know there was some Daenerys and Galadriel talk at some point. Hugo talking about how Sauron will not get the, like, Anatar plot, and that is correct. I don't see how the way they do that with how much Galadriel's, like, said, oh, he's back and all this stuff, when he's not even back yet, really. So, yeah. Agreed. So this is Numenor. This is something they continuously do, is that the Numenorians are not strong at all. They're just, like, normal dudes. Just bothers me. Apparently they are orcs. Well, see, here's the thing, Matthew. If this show was even somewhat lore accurate, or I maybe would give them that. But, no, they are orcs. Sorry, they are orcs. Matthew, I get what you're trying to say, but they are orcs. You want them to be orcs, make them look like orcs. Tired of this bullshit. None of that. The orcs had to mob the Numenorians. I liked that. Reminded me of Gladdenfield's. That's what they had to do there. Fair. That's the orcs' kind of tactic, though, in general, though. The orcs were just like, they're not individually skilled enough to, like, take on an elf, for instance, but so that's why their numbers are always greater than everyone else's, really. From her earliest years, she had a marvelous gift of insight into the minds of others, but judged them with mercy and understanding. Tolkien on Galadriel. That sounds like this Galadriel. Yeah, it sounds exactly like this Galadriel, Nikki. What makes you think that isn't the Galadriel in the show? I can't even be sarcastic about this show. Grease, honest question for you. Who do you think has the better build-up for being the Mad Queen? Galadriel or 100% Galadriel. 100%. Like, she's just been nothing but an asshole the entire... Like, some would argue she started the show as the Mad Queen. Like, Daenerys, it was just like, she lost someone and, like, she just took her grief out on the people of King's Landing. That's what happened. But, yeah, no. This Galadriel will take the One Ring and become dictator of the Hither. Yeah. Matthew, they're not orcs. You said they were orcs. Everyone kung fu fighting. Yep. Banger of a movie, by the way. Oh, yeah. She turned me off more times than I can count. Always starting to kill people for trivial reasons and always appearing to enjoy it. That is true. How many seasons will this show have? I genuinely don't know how they make it past 2 seasons. I don't know who's going to be watching this in season 2. Because when you already have, like, your major Lord of the Rings YouTubers, like lore, like, people and all that, and your major people that cover the series saying, yeah, probably not going to cover it in season 2 after the season ends. I don't know who's going to watch it. Like, I genuinely don't know who would watch 5 seasons of this show. I don't know. There's no way. Don't orcs often poison their weapons? They do. I'd give them props for killing main characters. It's so boring when you know no one can. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. And the thing is, they can. They've made up a bunch of characters that no one's heard of, that nobody cares about, and they still won't kill them. Yeah, Hugo, I don't think anyone's going to die in this show. I just don't see that. Maybe Muriel dies at some point for some reason. Just so they can have Pharazôn take over and not have to do the actual lore accurate way. Dude, Amazon has blown so much money already. There's no way they're making back their money from Rings of Power. There's just no way. How? Like, think about it from just people I know, right? The people I knew that were interested to see what the series was going to be about and if it was going to be good or not have already stopped watching. If I was not doing these streams and not covering it because I wanted to show how poorly Amazon is doing on this show, I would not be watching it. Like, and I am someone that likes Lord of the Rings. I really love this universe. I literally have the Silmarillion right there in the background. I would not watch this series if I was like not doing YouTube. I would not watch it. Every time I watch a review of this show, the more I am demotivated to start the show after the dude. Zen, don't watch this show. Don't watch this. Sauron, maybe he's been revealed, maybe he hasn't been revealed. Maybe he's a character we know. I don't know, Zen. I don't know, man. Just the fact that there are so many women fighting and leading armies in what is supposed to be Middle-earth is agreed. And this is the type of stuff that takes away from Éowyn. Because Éowyn, it was like very much where Éowyn was unique, where she felt trapped by not being able to have an active role in kind of the war and stuff like that, not being able to do anything, where she kind of felt closed in. That's what her whole conversation with Aragorn was about. But if you have this time period and you're saying, oh, all these women are leading everything, that doesn't make any sense. Like, so I don't know. We will have to see, but I've seen shows with terrible starts make a comeback. Matthew, there's no coming back. Unless Galadriel just doesn't appear anymore. I don't know what to tell you. It's gone. It's gone. The slim shady-ites are the Anatar representation. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one, Nikki. That's a good one. Do Numenorians have longer lifespans than regular humans in the Rings of Power show? They should. They should, seeing as though they're taking the entire Second Age time period in the lifespan of apparently Elendil, when it's thousands of years. But yeah, we're not talking about that. Yeah, that's correct, Matthew. I know. I was just giving you crap. When do they say that in the show? They don't, Jack. They don't. They have not talked about anything in the show about Numenorian's life span. They have not even talked about death. Like that hasn't even been brought up as to why Numenor is going that route. I wonder what percentage of people are hate watching it. I don't know, man. It makes me lose hope in humanity when I see like polls like by it wasn't Men of the West. Men of the West is like he's one of the YouTubers I actually watch. What's the other one? It's like the Broken Sword. I usually like his content, but then I just like I watch his videos and I'm like he's really trying to defend this show and I'm like it's just not working. It's just not. And then I see like the polls he puts out and I'm like there are people that think that this is a very good episode and I'm just like what? Let this be a lesson to all the billion-dollar production houses. Go woke, go broke, and never to test the patience and resilience of chthonic fans and touch the entirety of things we love. I get what you're saying, Zen, like, because they have done, like, woke things where, like, diversity, putting in, like, again, okay, when I say diversity, I mean diversity where it's not needed and takes away from the story. And putting all these women characters into the positions they would not normally be in for femininity's sake. Yeah, I get what you're saying. But no, I agree with Jack. The show is just poorly written. Like, the show is just bad. Like, yes. Like, I'm not sure if they're trying to say that this is, oh, Mordor is being formed at this point. Mordor, like, it's theorized that it was basically made by Melkor, not Sauron. Agreed, Jack. And it's not been mentioned. Jesse, according to the ratings, more than half is hating it at least. Like, I don't know how you think this show is better than average. I could see maybe as a casual viewer, you have no idea what the real story is or any of that. And I just don't, like, if you just had it on, you weren't paying close attention to it, I could see how you maybe thought it was like average. But like, you cannot sit here and tell me that you think this show in any way is good. Thank you for trusting me, Matthew. I appreciate it. I wrote off Broken Sword and Nerd of the Rings. Men of the West kept his honor. Yeah, I just started. I haven't watched Nerd of the Rings in a while, but Men of the West is usually my go-to. I really like his thoughts on kind of everything. All right, so scene 6. It's a pretty quick one. Pretty quick one. The Numenorians are on horseback and fully mobilized. That's it. That's it. That's all I wrote down. And what I think is hilarious is this supposed to be this really grand moment for Isildur and the Numenorians as a whole stepping back into Middle Earth or whatever, and we don't even see it. Like, we just skipped them and they're just galloping to war. Apparently, they know there's a war going on or something. It's cool to look at. Makes no sense logically. And Jack Lucas on diversity is not the problem. Disa and Arendir are some of the most interesting characters to watch in the show, and the entire logic of the plot is unsuccessful and melodramatic. It's a bad show. No, I agree, Jack, but my problem is when you're adding diversity in just for diversity. Like I've talked about in this video, you can have diversity. We talked about this already. The east of Middle Earth is supposed to be the Asian and African, like, thought of religions, more or less, or that's where their imagination was that came from Tolkien. When you start adding in things that don't make any sense with Tolkien's writing and what they were even built up on, it doesn't make any sense. That's my problem. And like, I'm not even saying like I like Disa's characterization, and I liked Arendir in the first like 2 episodes, but they don't make a lot. Like, it's the same thing with having Elrond have a One Direction haircut. Doesn't make any sense. These aren't elves. Lord of the Rings and Broken Sword sold their souls for access. I don't know. I haven't watched their channels and stuff like that, like past episode 1, really, so I can't really talk on that, but I don't know. I disagree. Diversity is a problem too. I agree to an extent with you on that, Hugo. I think you can do diversity, but you can't do it at the sake of breaking the atmosphere and the story, right? If you want to have characters where there's a lead and this, whatever, make your own story. It's not Tolkien's story, like, so don't put it in there. It just doesn't need to be there. And I'm kind of like, I kind of agree with Matthew, right? Like, if we look at House of the Dragon, right? House of the Dragon, they made House of Valerian Black. I'm willing to overlook it because I think the show is well written for the most part. I think there's things here and there that aren't great. The time skips, notably, but a lot of the actresses and actors that have played in the Valerian family, I think, have done very good. So I'm willing to overlook it because of how well their performances have done. And I think the Valerians as a family, there's maybe like a way you could like possibly do it, but yeah, no, I agree. Agreed, Jack. And that's the whole thing I was trying to talk about with House of the Dragon. Is like, if the writing is good enough, then we're willing to overlook the forced diversity, right? Like, and that's my whole thing with this story and this show, is that I'm not willing to overlook things anymore because the show is bad. It's poorly written. It's not handled well. And I definitely can understand that, Hugo, as well. Like, I understand like both like points there, and I agree to an extent with both of them. Okay, so we're getting kind of into the finale, quote unquote. But so scene 7 is the orcs kind of breaking down this door, and they hold that once they break through, they hold everyone at sword point, and it's like, whatever, we know nobody's gonna die here. This should be a big, like, impactful scene. It just isn't. We just don't care. Like, why would they kill Bronwyn off after we just watched her where she could have easily died? Why would they save her to get her killed again? It doesn't make any sense. Again, another plot contrivance. Just doesn't make any sense. Adar basically just starts killing people, trying to find the sword thing, whatever. And then Theo tells them where the sword is. We didn't get a scene. I'm pretty sure we never got any scene showing us that Theo would know where the sword was. Right? Because Arondir goes to hide the sword. How did Theo know where the sword was? He just knows where it is, apparently. And I don't know. And then we get the sword, and at this point we have the Numenorians teleport across the Middle Earth, I guess. Magically arrive. It's basically like season 6 of Game of Thrones when the forces from the Vale magically teleport to Winterfell. Same thing. It looks kind of pretty, looks nice, but whatever. Now this is something that I literally was just like, wow, this is the level we're at. So there's an orc that is holding, I think it's Theo at sword point, like this, has a sword on his neck. For some reason, the orc takes the blade away from his neck, pushes him. Theo picks up a dagger or something, and then stabs the orc with it. I'm just like, how did we go from Lord of the Rings, one of the greatest masterpieces of all time, to this nonsense? Whatever. Now, this is the point that really bothers me. So we have, right, all of these orcs, whatever, they get imprisoned or whatever. The Numenorians win, whatever, don't care. We've just seen, like, 2 days ago, or not 2 days ago, 2 episodes ago, the orcs can be in broad daylight, and there's just no problems there, right? But then they try to contradict it. We have another thing where it's like Galadriel kind of threatens or something like that, where, oh, I'm going to start killing off all the orcs, letting them peer into the sunlight. Like, it doesn't kill them. Or does it kill them? It's just, whenever the plot needs the orcs to be okay in sunlight, they're fine. But when, oh God, the orcs can't be in sunlight, then they use that. It's just so stupid. There's just no continuity to the entire thing. Anything else I want to mention before we get into, like, the chase scene? Oh, yeah. So, there's another thing. There's another scene, right, where one of the, like, Numenorian, like, guards or whatever is, like, on the ground like this. He has a sword like this. And this orc continuously is just going like this, beating the sword. Like, at this point, he's, like, hit it, like, 8 times. Like, dude, could you really just not, like, cut his leg or something? I don't know. I just... Glossy, rewatch this stream. Like, it's been a long rant. Long rant. Okay, when we get to the end of season 7, I'll look back at chat. So, and then we see Halbrand kind of saves Elendil. Whatever. Just don't care about this scene. Adar runs away with the sword. And now we have Galadriel. Oh, okay, this is another thing. People are in awe of Galadriel for absolutely fucking no reason. They're just like, oh, who is that elf? She's so good. She's done fucking nothing. She's been here and done nothing. She's literally rode up with the rest of the soldiers. Like, what has she done? And I'm just like, all right. So, Halbrand and Galadriel go after Adar, and it's a really just shaky cam chase scene that looked, in my opinion, looked pretty bad at times, but whatever. And then somehow, apparently, this is a trait that everybody can fucking do in this show, is they can hang off the side of their horse going full gallop, and then like hang off of it like a monkey. Like, it makes sense for Galadriel to be able to do it, right? Fine. But then Halbrand's doing it? Huh? Huh? Like, Halbrand gets on his side while his horse is going full goddamn gallop and, like, cuts the horse or hits the horse's legs or something. Adar goes flying. Whatever. And then Halbrand, this is one of the better, like, scenes where Halbrand basically is like, he puts his, like, spear or whatever in Adar's hand and is like, basically he's having his Anakin moment from Revenge of the Sith. Like, he's just like, I'm going to get some revenge on you. You know, you did some shit to my family or whatever. And then all out of nowhere, Galadriel's just like, no, Halbrand, you must have restraint. You can't do this. You remember how last episode I was talking about how I keep fighting because I have to and because I fight? Don't kill him. I need him, Halbrand. I gotta talk to him so I can threaten his entire race. And I thought it was a decent, like, arc for Halbrand, but the fact that it's coming from Galadriel, she has the most 180 in this character moment where she's like, restraint. And then it goes boom to the next scene and she's full psychopath. Like, what? Why not have it be Elendil or a Isildur or any one of these other characters where it makes more sense for them to tell Halbrand not to kill Adar? Why would you have it be Galadriel? Like, what? Whatever, dude. Whatever. Okay? Whatever. Let me answer chat, because I'm just... God. Alright, let me go back up. Let's go back up. Yeah, if they make one Sylvan elf black, they have to make all of them. Also, how is Arendir a Sylvan elf if he was born at the Havens of Sir? Jesse, you're asking too many questions. We're supposed to be dumb, remember? We can call it a heavy tan, Matthew. Oh boy. The haircuts are so bad, the barbers of Middle-earth need to be tried for treason. I agree. Galadriel must be a badass fighter because being a sage is not impressive. Agreed. Ready to hear your rants? Well, Glossy. The rants are heavy today. They are heavy today. They should be really impressed with 7-foot-tall Elendil. Nah, he's a dude. Nobody cares about him. I know nothing. I'm just here for vibes and entertainment. Well, get some popcorn, because if you want to see somebody have a stroke on stream, you're going to see it. I'm braced for further disappointment because I'm genuinely cheering for Sauron to win and I know he will lose. Agreed, Hugo. Like, I just want Sauron to win. Like, genuinely, I just want him to win. Um, only watched a bit of the episode, but your vibes are gonna be shaken today. Yes. I thought Halbrand was going to betray Galadriel at the last minute and do the big Sauron reveal. I was hoping it would have been cool, but you know, I was pissed when Halbrand not turned out not being Sauron. Yeah, I guess he could still be somehow, but uh, yeah. Agreed. You know, Galadriel had to torture Adar. That's just what had to happen. The dialogue is so funny in this show. Prequel comparison is so true. Yep. Yep. Uh, Galadriel chops off Halbrand and it pushes him out a window. Yep. Imagine Halbrand isn't Sauron and he died this episode because of Galadriel. Oh my god, this stream would be a whole. Dude, if they would have killed off Halbrand, if Galadriel would have killed Halbrand, or like gotten Halbrand killed, you guys would have seen a different version of me. Like, you think I'm ranting now? Oh, I would have lost my shit. Like, I would have lost my entire shit. But yeah, I kind of agree with you on that, Hugo. But at least he kind of has some sort of arc in the entire show. No one else really does. Watch the first 20 minutes of this stream. Do I even watch this when it finishes? I'm shocked. What do you mean, Jim? What do you mean you're shocked? I will say, this was not a happy stream. Let's put it that way. Why did they even take orc prisoners? I don't know. Galadriel wants to use them as torture for Adar. That's why. I don't know. She's gonna like take off their. She's gonna basically turn into Ramsay. She's gonna start peeling their fingers and stuff. Dude, you don't want to see me go goblin mode, okay? It's just you don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. Oh, by the way, since we're at, let's have a break from all the negativity. Let's have a nice little fun story for you guys. So the other day I was doing a run, and I was trying to I was trying to get it done quickly, and I was going around the park where I live, and I've seen a snake there before, right? But it's just not in this place, right? I look at the bridges, whatever, and I'm running around this thing. Right? I'm about 3 laps in, so it's just like a little circle. It's basically like if you guys are at high school or college, it's basically like a quarter-mile track, and you go around it 4 times. And I get on about the 3rd lap, and I'm like, I'm trying to get this done because I was going to my friend's house after, and I didn't see it, but there was like it was like a pretty decent sized snake, like in the middle of this like little. It wasn't a bridge, but it was like a little like, I don't know. It was actually like a part of a path, I guess, and I didn't really see it until I was like pretty close to it. So I either could have tried to stop directly in front of it because I'm going like a 7-minute mile pace, or I could have tried. Or what I ended up doing is basically try to jump over it really quickly. If you guys don't know, well, you shouldn't know. I haven't really talked about this before. I am deathly afraid of snakes, and I swear I almost had a heart attack that day. Like my heart stopped beating for a little bit. So there's your little fun Eric story of the day. Before we get back into ranting, he'll become too powerful. Yes. I'll be like Darth Sidious, and I'll have unlimited power. The volcano scene is very beautiful, but I would have done it differently. The revelation of Sauron's identity would be with him activating already. Yeah, agreed. Matthew, you have a top 5 characters in this show? Top 5? I have like 1 character. Like, what if Rickard Stark or remarried and had more children? Well, maybe things would have gone better. Let's put it that way. Maybe things would have gone better. Who isn't afraid of snakes? That's fair. Do you enjoy running? Because if so, I have bad news for you. I like running. I wouldn't say I enjoy it. It's more of just like, I gotta get my cardio in. But what's the bad news, Glossy? What's the bad news? Also, I see your counter king is not here in your war, so I guess you have bonus points today. So let's see. Did I talk about everything in season 7? Yeah. or not season 7, or yeah, scene 7, whatever. So scene 8, we have Galadriel talking to Adar. We've kind of talked about this a lot throughout the stream. So basically, Galadriel just basically says she's going to destroy the entire orc race and then kill him last. So yep. That's good. Yeah, so I'm just going to skip scene 8 because we talked about a lot of this, but for the most part, everything going against Tolkienian like values where the orcs are more morally gray or they're sympathetic. Galadriel being basically a villain in this scene. Yeah. Okay, fair enough, because otherwise I would have had to tell you that you're no, like Glossy. I don't run for the fun of it. Like I do it, to stay in shape or whatever, or I guess to get more in shape. The only good character is Durin. His acting is good. His characterization is good. He's funny, spontaneous, has emotion, and looks like what I expect from a Tolkien's dwarf. That's fair. I think he's one of the better ones. I think like top 3 of the 3 characters I don't hate. Yeah. We have a Galadriel and Halbrand scene, and what bothered me about this scene is that this is what Galadriel should have been. Like, Halbrand's character arc is what Galadriel should have been if they were going to go this route. Where Galadriel is fighting and she has all these issues that she is not able to, like, process. And she's not able to be, like, free herself of these issues of where Halbrand does. That is what should have happened. But they give it to Halbrand. I think Halbrand's good. I think Halbrand has the best character development of the entire show. I don't think it's the best or anything, but I thought this was an okay scene. I don't really have too many problems with this scene. Top 5 characters are all the ones that aren't in the show. I agree, Jesse. Abraham Lincoln needs cardio to hunt vampires. I do. By the way, guys, I trimmed the beard a little bit. You guys probably can't tell because I didn't trim the front of it that much. I trimmed like the sides pretty good because it was getting kind of long. So I know you guys are going to be disappointed by that, but I did do it a little. But I do need that cardio to hunt vampires. Like, vampires are pretty fast if you guys don't know. So if you're not doing the cardio, then you can't hunt the vampires. Simple as that. Talk to snakes. Go, Matthew, stop. Stop. Just stop. Okay. Let's get into it. So, we're almost done. We're almost done. Hold on. We're almost done. Okay. So, scene 10 is we're having a nice little village party. After all the gang has been slaughtered, half the village is dead. Actually, more like 75% of the village folk are dead at this point. And they're just like, yeah, guys, let's get drunk. Oh, let's talk about this. Our expedition we're gonna lead with Galadriel. It's gonna be so fun. Sauron's still like out there and still a big like villain, and we're acting like this is all happy. What's going on here? Like, and then Halbrand's made king because of some sigil, and everyone just agrees like he's Messiah or something. I don't know, like, whatever. Whatever. That's the least of my issues with this episode at this point. I also noted, how are there so many villagers still alive? Like, we saw them all crammed into one little room, and a lot of them got killed, and there seems like there's still a lot of villagers. I didn't really get that. I guess they respawned at some point. They pulled the North has unlimited reserves in Game of Thrones thing. I don't know. They pulled the Dothraki stuff, like they have unlimited reserves. They respawn. Now, this is the next thing that I just don't understand. They really tried to sell it that they could not tell the difference between a sword and basically an axe in this little package thing. Should I show you guys the shape of an axe and a sword? One of them goes straight up and the other one kind of goes straight up and then goes that way. Like, what? 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 And then nobody checks the packages? Like, it's so important thing. Nobody checks what? This story is so convoluted. I just whatever. And then Elendil and Isildur have a good scene between the two, and it's a good father-son bonding moment. And I'm like, okay, this is actually cool. Whatever. I like that we're getting an interacting scene and building their relationship. That was pretty fine. It was probably the best scene of the episode because I didn't hate it. And then it's ruined by putting the old dude as a key. And on what planet, right? Does this old guy, right? After seeing basically his entire village getting killed off and slaughtered, and seeing that these guys are about to get imprisoned and stuff, how does the old guy make it out of the people, out of the orcs and all this? And why does he also use the key? So then the water comes out from the dam, goes into the volcano, and the explosion happens, and I don't understand this plan. So you're telling me Adar wanted to explode the volcano that would then have killed all of them. Like, I don't know how the next episode's going to pick up, because the volcano should kill them all. Are we going to like wake up next episode and it was all a dream? Because there's no logical way that everyone does not die next episode. Everybody should be dead. I don't know what else I need to say, really. I mean, it was this whole plot, like we've already talked about. Why didn't they just dig or break the dam? Hell, why did you need the dam in the first place? Why didn't you just go up to the volcano and just have a bunch of all your orcs, just have an orc assembly line, and just start putting water in it? I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on. Like, this was my final note for the episode before I get into my big review or summary. I said there's about to be some grade A bullshit in the next episode as to how they survive. This better be a dream or vision or something. I don't understand. I do not understand. I do not understand. Okay, let me go back to the comments. And then we'll get into my summary. I'll give you my score. And then this pain will end. I'm casting the ring into the fire. Do you think they will mention the rings before the season ends? Probably not. It's Rings of Power, but there are no rings, and they haven't set up any ring plot, really, so... The sword key thing seemed really convoluted and stupid. Why was it necessary to just dig the tunnel? Agreed. I don't understand. What do you think Lord Eddard would have done if the rebellion never happened and Lord Brandon lived and married Lady Catelyn? So I probably think he would have tried to marry Ashara. I do believe they had some sort of relationship together. I think it was more like they had a crush on each other. I don't think he actually like got her pregnant or anything, but I do think that is a possibility. Why blowing up a volcano was Adar's plan? Honest question. Agreed. And then Jack says he wants to become a god. Obviously, all of the show, but yeah, I don't understand how that would have helped him. I don't really get it. I don't understand, Hugo. Those are all good points. I don't understand what they're really doing. Adar summons Treebeard, release the river, break the dam. Yeah, same. I think it was so Ash blocked out the sun. Yeah, but it's not going to stay like that forever. I don't understand. I just don't understand. I'm casting Rings of Power in the fire. Agreed. Damn, Rings of Power really be lacking rings right now. Poor Celebrimbor. Dude, Celebrimbor is barely a character on this show. Like, he's like one of the most influential at exactly this point of history. And he's been in like 3 episodes, maybe 4, and he barely talks or says anything that means literally anything. Okay. Let me take a drink. I'm gonna read my final summary, and I'll say my score again. Destroy it. Isildur, destroy it. Yeah. Okay, so this is my final thoughts and or review of episode 6 of Rings of Power. So here we go. For this being the big battle and climax to the season so far, boy was it a letdown. We waited over half the season with barely anything happening for one of the worst battles, if not the worst battle, in Lord of the Rings history on screen. Characters have massive plot armor on par with the Battle of Winterfell in Season 8 with the White Walkers. The dialogue is terrible, mixed with Numenor teleporting to the exact spot somehow, which is unexplained. Adar is still a villain with no real motivations outside of he protects the orcs or he has sympathies to the orcs. This episode broke so much lore that was so unnecessary. Halbrand continues to be one of the few characters who has any meaningful character development at all. I would say this is by far the worst episode of the series, worst action of any main series I have seen in a while. There's little to no continuity within their own story, mainly with the orcs. The only redeeming qualities of this show are the music was great in the episode, along with the landscape shots, and like other things like the orcs marching and things like that, and a scene here and there with like Elendil and Isildur towards the end was okay. But leading into last week's ranking was a 5. I really thought it was a 5 just because it was pretty okay and nothing happened. It was just filler, really. This one just plummeted. It plummeted down to a 3 with how illogical and contrived the entire episode was. And that's kind of my review for episode 6. Jeff Bezos, no. He's somehow more wrinkly than crazy Wraith Celebrimbor from the Shadow of Mordor games. Yeah. Oh, they introduced Celebrimbor early on, but he won't do anything this season. Adar is interesting. Don't you think he makes the elves look evil? That's true. That's a good point. But, yeah. So that is going to be the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed me getting angry for like an hour and a half. Because you surely didn't enjoy the episode. That didn't happen. There's no way. So, yeah. I guess we're going to end it on this note. We'll be back on Sunday with House of the Dragon. Or not Sunday. We'll be back Monday with House of the Dragon because you guys wanted more of this kind of a stream where it was a little bit more formulaic. We're going to go through each individual scene. It'll be kind of longer and it'll be a bit more structured. So I'll be back on Monday. We'll do a stream Monday talking about the entire episode, breaking it down. Should be a good one. We're really starting to get into, we're actually building to something. Rings of Power doesn't know how to do that, apparently. We're going to be building to the biggest points of the episode. Hopefully it's good. And we'll see you guys all in that stream Monday. Also, look forward to tomorrow. There is going to be what did I upload? Oh, I'm uploading tomorrow a Curse of Harrenhal video. So I hope you guys look forward to that. And I will see you guys all in the next stream or video. Bye, guys. Thank you all for